Lesson 42, solving percent problems. So first off, what is a percent? A percent is just a ratio that compares a number to 100. So if you write it as a fraction, it'd be, the numerator would be over 100. The whole is always the total amount, and then we have a percentage. It's just the number that represents a percent of the whole. So if you look at an equation such as 25% of 20 is 5, the percent has the percent sign with it. The whole is that total, and then the percentage, what part of that. So you can think of percentage as a part. And so then there's going to be some, we'll look at a couple ways of solving these problems. So using the equation to find a percentage. So we're just going to be using percent times whole gives us the percentage, or our percent times our whole gives us our part. So you need to know 2 out of the 3 parts in order to solve. And step 1 is to change the percent to a decimal. And then step 2 is to multiply the decimal by the whole number. So what number n is means equals 25%. 25% as a decimal would be 0.25. And all we do is just divide that by 100. Of means multiplication 50. So really it's what's 1/4 of 50. So 0.25 times 50 gives us an answer of 12.5. What number is 75% of 200? So I take what number is means equals 75% is 0.75 of 200 times 200. So 200 times 0.75, and would have to equal 150. So just setting it up based on the sentence that they write it in makes it a lot easier to solve. Next one, what number, n, or any variable that you want to choose, is 35%, so 0.35 of times 70. So 0.35 times 70 gives us an answer of 24.5. And then next one, what number, n, is 150%. So this would be 1.5 because I divide that by 100. So I'll move it 2 decimal places to the left. Of times 24. So 1.5 times 24 gives us 36. Now, if you didn't want to use the equation, you wanted to set up as proportions, then you'd write it as, and this is how I put it, as is over of equals to percent over 100. Or you can think of it as part is to whole as the percent over 100. Okay, either one you can use. So it says what number is 125% of 48. So if I use the is, we're trying to find the is. The of is 48. The percent is 125, and that's over 100 because we're dealing with a percent. And so now we can simplify this by using cross products. Multiply across, so that's 100i equals 125 times 48 gives us 6,000. Get I by itself, divide by 100. Zeros at the end cancel out. So now I have I equals 60. Next one, 15 is what percent of 45? So we're trying to find the percent. So our is 15. Of is 45. We're trying to find the percent, and that's over 100. So now if I use the cross products, I have 15 times 100 is 1500 equals 45p. Get p by itself, I divide by 45. I end up with 1500 divided by 45. And the percent would be 33.3% repeating. Next one, what number is, so we're trying to find the is, 120% over 100 of 25. And here I know that 25 times 4 gives me 100. That means I can take 120 and divide by 4 to give me my interest, or my is. 120 divided by 4 would be 30. And if I do 30 times 4, that gives me my 120. So the answer would be 30, which would make sense because if the number is 120% of 25, it's got to be bigger than 25. Next one, 12 is what percent of 72? Use cross products. So 12 times 100 is 1200 equals our 72p. Divide by 72 on both sides. I got 1200 divided by 72. Percent would be 16.6 repeating percent. Make sure you put that repeating symbol at the end or above your number, because that's what it's actually. Don't round that to it unless they ask you to round it. Next one, use a proportion to find 315% of 21. So you need to find the is. The of is 21. 315%. So cross products. So we got 315 times 21 gives us 6,615 equals 100p or 100i. Divide by 100. I would be 66.15. And the last one here, we got 59.5 is, so 59.5 is our is. What percent of 17? So cross multiply, that would give us 5,950 equals 17p. Divide by 17 on both sides to get p by itself. 5950 divided by 17 would give us 350. So that would be our percent. And then let's look at some application. Anna receives $1,153.84 in gross earnings every year, or every 2 weeks. That's the total amount that she earns. However, 28.07% of the gross earnings is removed for taxes and other deductions. Using the equation, determine the net pay. So they're asking you, what number is 28.07% of $1,153.84. So now the 28.07, it's a decimal, but that's a percent. So I need to divide this by 100 to make it as my decimal. So it'd really be 0.2807 times 1,153.84. I take the 1,153.84 times 0.2807, and I would round it to the nearest cent. So this would be $323.88. That's how much deductions she would have on her paycheck. So this is the deductions, but they're asking for her net pay. What is her pay after taxes? So I would have to take my $1,153.84 and subtract the 323.88 from it. 1153.84 minus 323.88 gives us $829.96. So this would be her net pay. That's what her paycheck would come out to be. Next one, Lee receives $1,278.91 in gross wages every 2 weeks. However, 33.85% of the gross earnings is removed for taxes and other deductions. Using the equation to determine her net pay. And again, net pay is what you get after taxes and deductions. So you got $1278.91, and they're taking 33.85% of that. You need to find out what her net pay is going to be. So if I take 1,278.91 times a decimal, which would be 0.3385, that gives us $432.91 as our deduction. And subtract the $432.91 from that. 1278.91 minus 432.91, $846 would be her net pay, his net pay. Another way of solving that one would be if you took this percent and you subtracted that from 100, because that would be how much you actually earn from the total. So this one you could have taken your $1,278.91 and multiplied this by 0.6615, because if I took the 100% and let's just say this was 33.85% off, you're actually paying 66.15% of it. And so you are saving, or you are keeping 66.15% of your gross earnings. And if you did this one, you would have gotten $845.998965 to the nearest cent. That's how you get your $846. And our last question here, Dominic earns $9.25 an hour working part-time. The circle graph shows how he divides his earnings. This month, Dominic has worked a total of 54 hours. Find the amount Dominic's earnings that will be put into savings this month. So we need to find out what total amount he has. I take the 54 hours and I times it by 9.25. So he gets $9.25 per hour. So 54 times 9.25 gives us $499.50. And of that, he puts 40% in there. So 40% of $499.50. So 0.4 times $499.50 gives us $199.80. That's how much he would put into his savings. So that is our lesson on finding percentages using proportions and using equations.